Okay. Welcome to the October 16th, 2025 meeting of the Ann Arbor Renters Commission. The purpose of the Renters Commission is to advise the City Council and City Administrator in matters affecting renters in the city. The Ann Arbor Renters Commission is made up of voting members who are appointed by the mayor and approved by City Council, 2 non-voting City Council liaisons, 2 non-voting members representing different landlord perspectives, and a non-voting representative to the University of Michigan Student Legal Services. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, you will be able to speak through the webinar link or by phone, depending on your method of access to this meeting. To be called on to speak, callers must press star 9 if listening by phone or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link a2gov.org/renterscommission meeting. You will then be called upon by city staff one by one using the last 3 digits of their phone number or by username if available for those accessing through the web link. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments. City staff will indicate when callers have 30 seconds left of their 3-minute comment period. After 3 minutes, they will be placed on mute so that we may proceed to the next speaker. Moving on to roll call. Please state the city and state you are calling from. Commissioner Ratcliffe,
I'm here calling from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Commissioner Else,
Here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Droppelman,
Here in Ann Arbor.
Councilmember Radina. Not here at the moment. Councilmember Harrison, Commissioner Pitts,
Here, Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Liao, and I'm Commissioner Larceny's here in Ann Arbor. Commissioner Bodie
Here in Ann Arbor.
and Commissioner Pace.
Here in Ann Arbor.
And next we have the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve, or do we have a quorum? 1, 2.
5 of us tonight who are voting members, and Councilmember Regina did just join.
Okay. Okay, going back to roll call. Councilmember Radina?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Cool. So is 5 the amount for quorum? Or do we need 6?
It was 6. We'll keep having this discussion point, but it's 6, right?
I can't really hear you, Rosanita. I'm not sure if I'm the only one. And I'm here as well, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry you weren't on the list.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my laptop tonight. Like I said, I can't get into my email, which is why Hannah's leading the meeting right now, while I try to figure things out. But I do think that 6 is what gives us quorum, but we've been going back and forth for a while now on whether or not we can, because we had voted to change it, whether or not it can get changed to just a majority of the current number of sitting renters being present. I think is that the right term, verbiage?
Yes, the quorum for the group will be 6, but I did forward, or I did kind of like bring back up to the attorney's office and our boards and commissions coordinator that the Renters Commission is looking to make this change, and I sent I sent kind of the same information I sent previously, but I added that it's been difficult for the Renters Commission to reach quorum for several months due to the quorum being
And
6.
Cynthia and I have expressed that we want to be able to introduce this at the next meeting, and so we're trying to get it from them in time to do that, acknowledging that Monday is the next meeting. So we'll see if that happens in time.
So I guess we'll move on. So we can't approve the agenda. we're gonna skip the approval of minutes from previous meetings. So I guess the next thing on the agenda would be first general public comment.
We do have a few people in the waiting room as attendees, so to speak at public comment, you can press *9 to raise your hand if you've called in, or if you're joining with the Zoom web link, you can use the raise hand feature. And after you raise your hand, I'll call on you to speak, and you would have up to 3 minutes to address the Renters Commission about any topic, and we would give you a 30-second warning at the end. So if you'd like to address the Renters Commission about any topic, go ahead and raise your hand now. All right, no attendees have indicated, so we can close public comment.
So the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We can discuss the junk fee ordinance update. Councilmember Radina, do you have specific updates about the ordinance?
I don't have too many additional things other than what we discussed at the last meeting, and actually Gail and I just chatted briefly before this about some additional things that she caught in kind of some of the technical language to make sure that we're not creating any loopholes, things like that. I have suggested a number of modifications to it based on the feedback I got from you at the last meeting. It is with our city attorney's office now, and so I'm kind of waiting on some additional updates, and we'll follow up with them again. Obviously, at this stage, with the next meeting being on Monday, I don't anticipate that this will be on Monday's council agenda, so we'll be looking out into early November to hopefully get this introduced. But just that those conversations have been ongoing. I can't remember if I'd met with them prior to or slightly after our last meeting, but I did meet with the Ann Arbor Tenants Union, and I think it was fairly well received there as well. They raised some of the similar concerns that you did. I think we're trying to clean up some things around, making sure that we're not, creating a weird circumstance around utilities, things like that. And so there are a number of those items that you guys raised that they also raised. And so just waiting to kind of get some cleaned up language from our attorneys so that we can continue that discussion and hopefully get something introduced soon.
Great.
ATU meeting was after the last just meeting. And is it possible to get before it goes to council for the Renters Commission to receive a draft for I guess for educational purposes if it's not before or I guess if it's before our next Renters Commission meeting?
Yeah, so I think I heard your question, Rosnita, and since this will require kind of two readings at council anyway, I think it would be very difficult for a circumstance to arise where there wouldn't be an opportunity for us to bring it back here again as well. But yes, the intention would be that once we have kind of an updated draft again, I would want to circulate it amongst all of you.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're ready to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. We have the early leasing ordinance complete report. Was everyone able to access that report okay? I guess I'll open it up for discussion. Did anyone have any notes on what they saw in there? Any comments, questions?
I have a question, and I think I saw that John Reiser was in the meeting room. What if there was like 50 some pages? I don't know if everyone was able to read all of the complaints, but one complaint said that even though it sounds like consecutive 6-month leases, so the total amount of time person was renting was over 8 months or a year, but that it didn't count. under the ordinance, but it also seemed as though the apartment complex that they were in was possibly giving 6-month leases specifically to get around the ordinance.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gil.
I was just having the same conversation about this with Travis, because my understanding is there is at least one landlord who, when a group of students or tenants want to sign a lease, they're being told that we understand that you want a year lease. We're just making you sign 2 consecutive 6-month leases. And that just seems, I mean, the sole purpose, there's no other reason for that other than to avoid the right to renew ordinance. And so I was curious about that when I saw that as well. So it's a good thing John Reiser's here now.
Hi, folks. Joining late on the way home from the doctor's office. But, you know, it says total. We'll take the position with respect to enforcement of this, that I'm going to it right now on my computer while on the phone. Housing code 8530. Do you guys have it up in front of you or no?
So there are 2, I think, cases of a 6-month lease. One of them is pretty recent, and then the one that
If it's just a 6-month lease, it's under 8 months total duration. If it's
Right.
2 6-months signed at the same time, we'll take the position that that is 8 months total duration. Leases less than total 8 months duration. So we would take the position that 2 simultaneous 6-month leases fall under section 530.
there may be more to this. I'm only able to pull so much from Stream doing a report without kind of like reviewing all of the attachments to get like the exact circumstances of every complaint. I'll follow up with John after the meeting and send him the case number so he can take a look to see. I think that it reads like it was unfounded for 6 months, but I think it's not impossible that it was not founded for another reason. I know that that's what's in the note, but it's a pretty short. I don't think that they can put a ton of characters in there. And then this is one of the older ones from February of last year. So.
Go ahead, Jordan.
First of all, I want to thank folks who are turning these in. It was refreshing to see that there has been some consequence for people in this situation, and that renters have been protected. Uh-oh. Am I echoey on my end or someone else's? Maybe it's John's. Okay. One thing that I was wondering is, I did read through the 78 pages best I could fairly quickly. Is there a way to track, are we tracking like the offending landlords separately? Or I don't know, maybe that's something the tenants union could do, is that they could dig through this report and kind of sort it out. But just wondering, like, are we keeping track of that? The people who, because I know that they're already, I saw in the email and have heard separately and sent them on to Gail that there are some places that are already asking this year, and just kind of wondering if we are tracking that anywhere.
I'm not aware that rental housing is, but John might be able to weigh in on a little bit more. We can look at that. Zach in our office who worked on the charts. I can ask him to kind of take another look at it. We are coming up on an election, so it won't be right now, but I think after the election, we'd be able to kind of dig into that and look for other trends if you want.
Travis.
It also strikes me that we should at least be tracking for, I mean, I think there are different infractions for subsequent leases. So if we are not tracking by that, we need to, I would suggest, simply because the first infraction is a lesser fine than subsequent infractions.
I have a question about like when the complaint is found to be legit, the landlord is fined, and they paid. Is the infraction visible on stream for renters? I didn't look up any of these incidents. But like, is that something any tenant could just look up?
You guys have great questions. I don't know. I know that the housing code or like the code violation cases are not public on stream. I think that they are FOIA, like somebody could FOIA them and they would receive like if they did FOIA for an address, they would receive a document like what I provided to you guys. So a fair amount would be redacted depending on the situation. But John might know, but I think the answer is no.
Is it just logistically difficult to make it publicly available since it has to be redacted?
Um, I think it's likely that's part of it. I'm not sure what the options are in stream, if it's kind of like an all or nothing thing publicly for this section of stream. I think there's also, I guess it would be hard to say. I know rental housing has kind of expressed that they want to be good partners to landlords and renters, and maybe that's, I don't know. Riser, do you know if code violations are available on stream for these? I know that like inspections are, and inspection results would be, but I don't know like if somebody could look up the apartment they're looking at to see if their apartment is. I think it's no, but
I don't think it is. I think it's a different, it's not to say it couldn't be in a redacted format, but I don't think that it is. I mean, that'd be a question for Pete and Greg. And I'll mute myself and text Pete, but go ahead.
I'd be interested to see other varieties of code violations being available on stream. I personally experienced like habitability failures like during my lease. So if it would have showed up during an inspection, yeah, it would be on stream. But since it was in between inspection periods, no one knows about it. Uh, and I know I don't think a lot of renters use Stream when they're apartment hunting, where it's pretty competitive. We kind of take what we could get, but simply having it publicly available, I think, would be good. I had a side note, kind of unrelated to the ELO, but I was reading through some of the complaints, and one of them said that the tenant ended up getting evicted for a false fire alarm. And I didn't realize that was a thing you could get evicted for. Is that maybe a lease by lease thing, or is there a city code that relates to that?
I'm not sure that I know the answer to that either. And it might have been more than one issue at one time as well. I think we need more information on that.
and I think that oops, sorry,
No, go ahead, Kristen. I'm done.
I think it's possible that because it's kind of like a notes section of the code case, that maybe that's what the tenant reported, but it hasn't been verified. So I don't know. I guess that's like another piece of the, like, I didn't see anything in the code in the file related to fire alarm, but like that part of the issue.
It says possible lease ordinance violation. So I was wondering what that meant.
And I don't remember if it was one of the items from communications tonight or if it was in the ELO document. But it does sound, it is something that we've found previously, that there are some landlords who they're kind of getting around, it seems like they're getting around the ELO by saying like, hey, here's a rent special, or we're doing a rent special now if you want to renew your lease. And it sounds like it's not necessarily counting as an ELO violation because it's just a rent special. Um, yeah.
So I guess I'd want to hear from Riser as well, because I have a different, I mean, it seems to me that the language in the right to renew ordinance makes it pretty clear that you're not supposed to make any offer earlier than 180 days. So I don't know what the city's doing with those, but to me, it seems like and we have a lot of students that are getting these now where they say, you know, you get a great deal if you sign your lease by, I don't know, October 30th or something like that. And I think that's a violation of the right to renew ordinance. I mean, I do let people know that part of there's no rent control. So, I mean, if we get them time to make a decision, it doesn't mean the rent can't be raised higher. And so there are some tenants who say, well, I'd rather lock it in now at this lower rate than wait and see how much it's going to increase. But I think it's a violation. I know John and I have talked about this before, but I feel like with the change to the ordinance, this last change, it made it a little bit more clear that it's a violation. I mean, the language, I'll pull up, hang on. The language says it's, a landlord shall not make any renewal offer earlier than 180 days from the start of the current lease. It seems pretty clear to me, but I'd be curious to hear everybody else's thoughts on that.
And sometimes these are offers, and if that's the case, it's sanctionable. And sometimes it's commercial free speech, which is allowed. So it's like the early bird special. So if an offer comes in with like a deadline, you got to do this before a deadline, you know, it could be an offer that's defective if it doesn't have all those things. So is it an offer with a certain price before a certain deadline? That would be an offer in violative of 8530 because parentheses 2C, a landlord shall not make any renewal offer earlier than 180 days from the start of the current lease. The tricky thing comes when they say, we value our relationship with you and hope that you'll continue to stay with us. Tenants are renewing early now, and you might want to do so to avoid once at a significant price increase. So, and I get that it pressures tenants to early. It depends if it's an offer, Gail, or if it's free speech. We had one. We're dealing one with a lawyer that you and I both know that we're talking about one of these, and he said, well, you know. He said that it was actually sent. So Pete and I are dealing with one of those exactly right now.
So you're saying if it doesn't give the price and it just says, hey, contact us, lock in a lower rate, that's speech, but that if it says something like, hey, let us know, you know, we'll only increase the rent to, I don't know, 5,000.
The one we said is your lock in before December 9th at the $2,010 rate. And you know, and then the attorney said, well, it didn't contain the other things. I go, yeah, but it's still an offer. You know, lock in at this rate before this date to stay at your current place. That's an offer, and it was too soon.
So price and a deadline are the two key things generally.
I mean, don't you think those are key things? Like
John,
you want to say at this look, yeah, yes.
So it is one thing to the advertisement itself. Let's argue that it's commercial speech.
Yeah, no.
When they set the lease in front of the person ahead of the deadline, that is ready for them to sign, is that not them making an
Well,
offer in violation?
I would say that is, here's the lease, but what we're getting is the kind of what comes to our attention usually, it's the email correspondence from, I can name a few off the top of my head that do this. Now, some of them say this is not an offer. Um, uh,
So then maybe we need some, secret shoppers to go out there and actually get the lease placed in front of them. Like in those circumstances, I don't know.
Well-
It feels to me like this is a circumstance where, like,
but
sure, you can argue that you're just advertising, but at some point you're actually letting them sign early.
I know, but remember, Travis, we wanted, or Councilmember Radina, we wanted we wanted, or you wanted, or the council wanted tenants to be able to renew early if they wanted to. If some tenants want to lock it in sooner.
I think it's a difference between me as a tenant emailing my landlord saying,
I agree.
hey, I want to lock. I'm sorry, there's something going on with my computer. There's a difference between me as a tenant coming to my landlord and saying, hey, making up a name, hey, Carol, I want, I just want some stability. Can I sign a lease, for next year? I know it's early versus me getting one or more, even one email before that time telling me and sent out to all residents in general to sign up now for this great deal because we're already in a lease, and they know that that it's possibly violating this ordinance because they're advertising this new rate if we get it now, because we all know that this rate is not going to be around 9 months from now. It's not their new rate, it's a special rate if you sign up now. And then there's, like it's very different from on the website, it just saying, leasing specials up now when it's a very specific email to me who already has a lease. Or to my neighbor who already has a lease, even though we're not within that time frame of the leasing ordinance.
Yeah, I think that would be
That's
my
what
question too, is can we then legislate that, like, but we've done this, right? We legislated that any agreement to lease was supposed to do our holding agreements. And I mean, is there a way to come up with stronger language that any direct communication to a tenant regarding consecutive lease periods before, like, is there a way to then strengthen this? Because I agree, I think having a special on your website that says renew by December 9 for 3% off, or whatever the example that was in the communications today, that's one thing. But to send a targeted email to a tenant specifically saying, hey, you, like, that's an offer. It feels like an offer as a tenant. I guess you're saying legally it's not, but is there any way we can strengthen it then, is I guess my question, because that's not what our intention was. And I think the second piece is that we did want tenants to be able to renew early, but a lot of that discussion was prior to right to renew. And so that may change if renters want that. Like that part of the conversation may be a question mark worth posing to CSG or tenants union or people here and or all of those things. Because I think a lot of that, do you want the opportunity to renew early, came from you might not have the protection to do so. And now that we have that, I would wonder if that's still true.
Well, I also see that Hannah's got her hand up, so I don't know if she wants to ask questions.
Yeah, my question is related, like, for these people who are receiving like an early promotional rate, is there a penalty for them not doing it? Or say they did, like, sure, I want to renew my lease at this lower rate, cool, thanks. But they're not signing a lease yet, so it's not contractually binding. And so later could they just be like, hey, actually, I'm not renewing, sorry. Could the landlord, are they facing retaliation because of it? Because if it is a promotional rate, that might be kind of nice, but like as long as they're not signing a lease, it's not violating the ordinance, right?
Well, no, what violates the ordinance is that an offer uh, to renew comes in sooner than 180 days. That's what violates. What does not violate is, you know, if you want to renew, talk to us to lock in the best rates possible. And that's what causes anxiety to tenants, and that's what causes them to renew sooner than they might otherwise because of that. Or a tenant says, "Wait a minute, I know I'm going to have the right to renew, and I know that a formal offer is coming at 180 days." I have had conversations with lawyers, and they ask me, and I don't tell them, what can I say to get around this? Whatever we pass, something else is, there's going to be a response from them that doesn't violate it, but violates the spirit. That's just the nature of the beast with these. I want to say guys because the ones I'm thinking of are male, but with these attorneys, I see Gail's hand up too. But it's the offer that comes in too soon. And also, what we're seeing now is at 180 days, an offer doesn't come. It doesn't come, and you can't do it sooner than 180 days. So what if you send it at day 300? And that tenant has anxiety too. So that's something that once in a while we see too. But I see Gail's hand.
So just an answer to Hannah's question, most of what we're seeing is not just you agree to renew, but then they want the lease signed rather quickly. So it's not something like they can, because if it was just like, yeah, I think I'll take that, but a lease isn't signed, then, there's an argument that it's not binding, but that's not, landlords want the leases signed once the agreement is reached. The other thing we're seeing as a result of this, and this may be the first year, I don't know if it'll be different next year, but there's a lot of, especially like the high rises, there seems to be a lot more vacancy than usual. So what's happening is, at least last year we have tenants who locked into these super great deals that they were signing. And maybe there's just an education piece here, but they locked into these rates early because they wanted to get that best rate. But then there's nothing that prevents the landlords from lowering the rents later. And the tenants can't go back and say, wait a second, I thought I was getting the best deal, because they're already locked in. And I do think, at least for the student population, that there's an education piece that has to happen there. But it's frustrating, the pressure that they're feeling to lock in.
And we have written tickets for when an offer comes in with a date and an amount too soon. We have written those tickets, and it's often been not the big ones, but a smaller one where somebody owns a house and they just didn't know. So we've had those. It's usually the bigger ones can afford an attorney who tries to draft a communication that skirts the intent but doesn't violate the language.
And then there's the skirt the intent and the language by having 2 consecutive 6-month leases.
Well, I think two consecutive 6 months is a year, and I would recommend enforcement on that.
No,
That
I
would be
understand. Yeah.
to Janet and to Pete.
Yeah, I haven't seen any recently, but it's just the beginning of the season.
I will also say, John, we can maybe take this offline after. I'm looking at the ordinance right now. I don't see an explicit exemption in here for if a tenant were to approach a landlord. And so even if there is, a speech component around the advertisement, I'm not seeing where it would prevent the landlord or protect the landlord if somebody came to say, hey, that's great. We're really happy that you want to sign again. Here's the date at which you can come back and we can start that process. And I don't see an exemption in here in that circumstance. It's, a landlord shall not make any renewal offer earlier than 180 days.
And that's black and white. We'll write that ticket every day.
Well, but I mean, my suggestion would be then, again, still in those circumstances where they've had a crafty, ad that goes out saying, hey, if you sign now, you can get a discount, even though it's 250 days before your lease is up. The moment that they set that lease down in front of the tenant, they're in violation of the ordinance.
They are, and then we're going to have to get a complaint from that tenant. Usually that's a satisfied tenant that's not interested in enforcement of the the ordinance necessarily. They're acting in their own interest to lock in a rate for next year. It's like, I agree.
That's fair. That's fair.
I
That
agree.
is, we require, we would require the person to actually make a complaint about that circumstance. But if we know that it's happening, and folks are, getting these and complaining about the advertisements, then maybe we need to start educating people that they need to go get a picture of the lease set down in front of them. I don't know what it is like, because it's certainly an effort to skirt the law.
Or that any communication about a tenancy shall include the date, you know what I mean? The date by which a tenant has to renew, or you know what I mean? I guess, because we want to give them half a year of like respite, peace and quiet before they get harassed about renewing and people traipsing through to see if they want to live there next year. So that might, I'm thinking an amendment that says that if you're going to communicate with the tenant, you also need to include the following statement. This does not constitute an offer, an offer compliant with section 8530 containing the names of the parties' premises will be sent to you, where you will then have 30 days to reply. But if it said that, then let's say it said something like that this isn't an offer. We're going to send you an offer and you'll have 30 days to reply. Are the tenants still, because until we can touch price, are tenants still going to have anxiety about a real or possible hypothetical price increase and lock in early?
I would say as long as we are not strictly enforcing against those that are kind of skirting it now, yes. But it would take us actually like testing this and enforcing it, in my view, for us to crack down on that and for them to stop creating the anxiety, because the anxiety is being created by landlords who are sending out renewals exactly like that say, if you don't sign right now, your lease is your costs are gonna go way up. That's where the anxiety comes from.
And I know, because I've seen the emails and gotten the complaints and had conversations with Pete and Janet about it. Pete says that they are on stream, by the way, but they're not public facing. I think Kristen can see them, but staff can see them, but Pete says that they're not available to the public on stream, although they're there. Kristen, you ever look in the stream to see those?
Yeah, I'll add that they are in stream, all of them are in stream, but all complaints are categorized the same way. There's not like a section for ELO right to renew complaints. And so we pulled them out, like in our office, we just pulled them out manually, but I don't know, I guess I'm not sure what the like customization options are for stream for this part of it, and if they would be able to like further kind of break down the type of case in order to make some available and others not. So we can, I mean, if the Renters Commission is wanting to bring up complaint information being available on stream again, to rental housing services, I'm happy to kind of follow up on that if you guys let me know.
Yeah, I'd be interested
would
to learn more about it, like if it is feasible in some capacity, even if it's a limited capacity.
Okay.
Are they still using Granicus? Oh, Kristen? Is Granicus still the software system behind it?
Not Granicus. I think that Stream is something else. Tyler Technologies.
I
I
think
want to say.
Granicus is
People-
used for city council and
Yeah, we've got for our
to manage.
legislative stuff.
Yeah.
Was it? I thought it was the same company at one point, but
I'll look it up real quick.
if you can just look into what the backbone is and just email me at some point, then that would be good. Thanks.
The issue might become is it's going to take staff to redact personal identifying information and other things, and to do that potentially. If someone proposes that the complaints be public facing on stream, are they going to be in their entirety, or are there going to be, I don't know what's reasonable to redact?
So could they just do the complaints that are founded and the outcome of it? Like this landlord violated this ordinance and they paid a fine. Like I don't know if it's necessary to put every single complaint visible to the public, but just the ones that were found to be legitimate.
And I'm gonna punt on that. That's a question for Greg Scrimger in charge of rental housing, and our Alicia Turner Trobler and Derek Delacourt, the area administrator.
Do I have any more comments or questions to add to the discussion on the ELO information? If not, I think we could move on to the next item on the agenda, which is future outreach events and coordinating with Avalon Housing to potentially do a stakeholder engagement event at Avalon. Toya, did you have a chance to talk to some people at Avalon about organizing that?
Yes, I did. And my people there are interested in that happening, and they already threw out a date and a time for me to present to the commission to see if that could work. November 7th is a date. We have what we call a services gathering at Avalon, and that would be a good time to hear from the commission. So they wanted me to just sort of talk to the commission, see if that day would work. And then also to ask about what would be presented and how much time do you think that you would need to present so that we can coordinate all that.
What time on the 7th? Is there a specific time for this?
3 o'clock, if that works. If not, then I can take it back to them and talk about it.
Generally, the stakeholder events have been more about receiving feedback from tenants, but maybe if they had a list of questions, we could prepare something for them.
Yeah. So I think they were thinking more like right now, sort of a introduction to staff of who the commission is, some of the things that we're working on right now. And then also they did talk about a time, like allowing time for questions. They anticipate that there will be a lot of questions.
I think personally that date works for me. I guess we could correspond over the next week, maybe via email to uh we could do that sign up genius thing to see if we have enough people available that day. Um, does anyone else know if they might be available to present or attend that stakeholder event?
And I think I should be available also. I'm just a person who I need that calendar invite to put it in there. So yeah, how many would they say, like two or three of us? Is that a good enough
Yeah.
amount?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'd be fine going ahead and scheduling that then, just planning on that. Because November 7th is a Friday, right? I think. Um, and then we had also floated the idea of maybe doing another event at the library. I know that might take a little more time to schedule, so I just wanted to start getting the ball rolling on it now. Um, December might be a bit hectic for everyone with the holidays. January might be kind of slow at the libraries, but I don't know if it's still worth trying to get something planned for the winter time at a library. Does anyone have any strong thoughts or feelings on that one?
I think it's a good idea. Yeah, you're right, because of the holidays, November and December. January probably would be good. Are you thinking downtown or which library are you thinking about?
I think downtown would be nice because it seems to get more foot traffic, especially if we maybe do it on like a Friday or a Saturday. But I'm really open to any library that'll have us. Jordan?
One thing to think about is I think proximity to students for that time might be helpful. We haven't really gotten super meaningful engagement with CSG, and that January timeframe, for those who may not know or who are listening, because of the way the early leasing ordinance is set up, the May beginning leases start leasing, early December. And then the fall leases start in February, March, with some summer scattered in between. So it's kind of a like leasing has started for students. It may be nice to get kind of a handle on that. So, and or alternatively, we could look at student engagement, or do both, or just try to make sure that the one that we are doing is getting circulated among students.
Could we plan something at like one of the university libraries, like the Ugly? Have we ever done that as a commission, or is that a little bit tricky since it's university property?
I don't have a good answer to that. We haven't, but partially because the CSG survey was kind of guiding us. But we haven't quite, it hasn't been, at least from my recollection, hasn't been quite as in depth the last couple of ones. And I don't know, I know we're kind of short on students on the commission. I think it also would help for recruitment is another thing that I was thinking as well. But I do think that trying to get more engagement with students, whether through CSG or through, we've been working with tenants union, of course, but so maybe that's a question for tenants union is like, hey, we want to hear from students kind of when they're in the midst of the leasing season as to how things are going. Do you want to coordinate that together, or something like that might be a way to think about that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It'd be nice to just get a little more exposure with the students too. Um, so I guess maybe, so we'll plan on doing Avalon, and then Kirsten, could you maybe reach out to some of the public libraries to see when we might be able to fit into the schedule?
I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you have a specific like weekend or window? Last time I was kind of like, these are the dates. Is there a library? Because I know they have a lot of programming.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards January simply because I feel like I don't know, will be easier to coordinate. Um, but I guess I'm open to February too. Like I don't know.
Okay. Are you thinking Friday, Saturday?
I think so. I feel like it'd be busier those days.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I have to leave now. I think I sent an email, but sorry to pop off, and I will catch you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we could move on to the next item on the agenda, the plan for the next meeting. It sounds like we're going to be having a presentation from the Housing Commission. Kristen, will we have a little spreadsheet to put in questions like we do for the other presentations?
Yes, I can send that out. I'll also send out the link to the Housing Commission's Community Academy presentation. It's pretty long. So I don't expect them, I guess, I let them know that more than a half hour is okay, but just to let us know or let me know so you guys can be aware. I don't think they'll do a presentation that long, but it might be a good thing to review part of or to, I like listen to it like a podcast kind of thing so that you have some context for questions, or like any follow-up with staff. I'm not sure who's attending. Jennifer Hall had me invite like 5 or 6 people, and so I think they're still identifying who to send. But yes, I'll send out a question form, and then I'll also include a link to their previous presentation.
Great, thank you. Aside from that, looking ahead to December, we need to start thinking about the work plan for 2026 and the calendar for 2026. So maybe thinking of what other presentations we want. Um, I guess in December, we could also look back at our progress this year on the work plan. But I guess it's just something to start thinking about what we want to really focus on for next year. Does anyone else have anything to add for the plan for next meeting?
Well, just a reminder, last time we normally come to the meeting with a planned draft. And so we'll probably work on that during one of the working sessions before the meeting, before December's meeting.
Yeah, we could probably get started on it in November, finish it up in December, present it at the December meeting, right?
Right. And with the calendar, just start thinking if you want to take like July off. I think that's the one where we tend to have people on vacation is and it's really hard to get quorum. So keep that in mind too.
Jordan?
I also have another 6:30, so I have to hop off too. But I just wanted to give one announcement for anybody who may be listening, that the tenants union is doing an organizing session on the 19th, 3 to 5 p.m. So this Sunday, the 19th, 3 to 5, and they are looking to work on the Tenants Bill of Rights and kind of what other things might be needed in local housing policy. So they are organizing that meeting, and you can find them on their website, Ann Arbor Tenants Union, or on Facebook to find information specifically about that meeting.
Thank you, Jordan. So I think we could now move on to reports. First, we'll have the report from City Council. Councilmember Radina or Councilmember Harrison, do you have anything to report?
Hello. Sorry I was late. Just got up for a few minutes before I jumped on. I don't have anything at the moment to report out that relates to renters commission at the moment. Although Councilmember Rodina and I did meet with the tenants in our tenants union. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, right? Was it? So yeah, it was a good meeting.
Yeah, I would simply add on to that. I think the tenants union is looking to pursue a right to organize in Ann Arbor. Something that I think should kind of probably be on the radar here as well for folks. And then the only other thing that I would add right now, simply because it pertains to housing generally, and then potentially the number of renters, is that council will have kind of the next step of the comprehensive land use plan on the agenda on Monday's council meeting. And that would be to start the formal like legal process of public review. I know we've had several years now, a couple of years now of this process playing out, but there's a state mandated period that's required before it can actually be adopted. And so we anticipate that there will be some conversation about the comprehensive plan at Monday's meeting.
And that time frame is 63 days, right? Is
Yeah.
that about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it requires a minimum of 63 days. And yeah, so.
Great, thank you. Do we have any reports from any commissioners? I think we can move on to report from staff liaison.
No report other than that we just gave out, or we just prepared to give out the rest of the booklets we have in stock, which is a pretty large, like somebody, I think they asked for like 500 or something like that. And so we're gonna be ordering those soon. And then we'll have fresh ones.
Should we get some of the new ordinances added to it then? Or I know we were discussing maybe some other changes to it.
Yeah, so the part that can be changed is kind of the as we know, I believe it's printed on white paper. And it's kind of limited for what can be in there. I think it was determined after the fee ordinance, or I think it was determined that that isn't required to go in. But it's something I can ask about if the Renters Commission would like to include that. If you talk to John about it and the clerk here to see if we're able to add more and kind of go from there.
I think we're ready for the second general public comment.
Right, to listen or sorry, to speak at public comment, if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Or you can use the raise hand feature if you've joined through the Zoom link. So if you are an attendee in this meeting and you'd like to address the Renters Commission about any topic for up to 3 minutes, you can go ahead and raise your hand now, and then we would call on you to speak and give you a 30-second warning when the time limit is almost over. Again, that's *9 to raise your hand if you're calling, or the raise hand feature if you're on Zoom. No attendees have indicated.
Next item on the agenda is communication. It looks like we had a few communications via email. Anyone have any comments about their communications? Rosanita?
There was one communication from Courthouse Square, and Nathan from the Ann Arbor Tenants Union is talking with the individual who sent it. The communication was also sent to the Ann Arbor Tenants Union. And he's trying to get some more information from the person. It's that they haven't received their lease for renewal yet. Even though, you know, the lease is expired. And according to Nathan, this isn't like an isolated incident at Courthouse Square, that on multiple occasions, multiple individuals, you know, over the course of time, or I guess each year, I should say, have had that same problem where, you know, the lease is up and they're not getting the new lease to sign until a while after the lease is expired. And then the other one, and then another one, it was the early leasing ordinance one, where the person, it said that as we begin setting rental rates for the 2026-2027 term, we wanted to share a limited time promotional option. The projected rate is $7,650. If you confirm interest within 7 days of this email and are prepared to finalize a lease within 3 weeks, we are able to extend a 3% promotional reduction to the 2026-2027 rate. This was from a U of M parent whose daughter had just signed the lease on in August. And I don't remember what the third one was. I'm sorry.
The third one was about some issues that a tenant is having shortly before their lease is about to expire, like they are moving. They were having issues with neighbors having domestic disputes at the middle of the night, mice in the apartment, water leaks. They are trying to negotiate with the manager about not paying the last month of rent due to all the problems they're having, but never heard back. They were referred to rental housing services.
And the one that the daughter is the student, she was referred to student legal services and to rental housing services here. Kristen always does an amazing job of routing people to the right resources.
Well, I think that's it for communication. So next is adjournment. Do we have anything else to add before we adjourn the meeting?
Oh, yes, that I think it's on the agenda for this month's not this month, Monday's council meeting. We should, fingers crossed, have Dan back after that. So one more person, yay! That's big news.
Thanks for sharing that reminder, Rosanita. Yes, we've got her back on since she has settled into her new place and wanted to rejoin.
Very good news. Okay, I'm good to call this meeting to adjournment if everyone else is okay with that. Sounds good. Thank you everyone for attending and have a good night.
All right,
Thank you.
goodbye,
Have a
everyone.
good night.
Thanks.